Catalonia is an autonomous region situated in the northeastern corner of the Republic of Spain. It is home to Barcelona, the sixth largest city in Europe and second largest in Spain, and it is home to a proudly patriotic population whose fight for independence was thrust into the limelight in 2016 with a referendum that ultimately ended in failure. With that popularity, though, the Catalan culture has also increasingly been subjected to the forces of globalization. One shift within Catalan culture that actually has been changed by globalization despite popular resistance to it as a whole, the change in the Sardana. To fully understand the Sardana, its unique blend of local and foreign culture, its history, why it connects to modern globalization, and most importantly, why its recent trends matter in the first place, we must first explore what it actually is. The Sardana is a very open tradition, with anybody being able to perform the dance. Also, anybody can learn to play in the musical ensemble that plays with the Sardana, the Cobla. The Sardana consists of very short, tight, and precise movements that require coordination with the entire group. If one person makes a single mistake, everyone is going to feel it. It is not, however, an art that relies on impressive physical strength or extensive knowledge of outside dance. I was lucky to have learned the Sardana myself in Barcelona this past May on a study abroad trip, alongside 2 of my professors and 10 students. In this trip, we were tasked with comparing Catalan culture to Appalachia, but in this examination of the Sardana, I want to take more of an isolated look at Catalan history and culture.
The dances are for anyone. I think on one of our day trips while we were in Barcelona, we got to see some locals doing the Sardana, and it just looked so festive and so happy. I felt like that was a way to bring community together because everything about it was a way for all different ages to celebrate culture and being with one another.
Sardana melodies are seldom any tone except that of an almost romantic, amazingly proud series of phrases, especially as the Sardana reaches the climax. Being widespread, Catalan children at least know what the Sardana is, and many know how to perform it.
So first connection, I think, when I was a kid, I used to dance.
Mr. Llopart's experience, though, isn't really a common one, at least in urban areas such as Barcelona.
It's not something that young people look at, in a cool way. It's more like this tradition, which is like old and no one really cares about.
But the Catalan resistance spirit doesn't fade easily. Organizations such as Casa de la Sardana maintain the Sardana in Barcelona, only a bit shrunken, but replacing it among that younger population have been a couple of traditions, of which both have been triggered by globalization. Catalans have possessed global attitudes for hundreds of years, case in point, historic Catalan music. Tess Knighton, who wrote the book A Companion to Catalan Culture, explores Catalonia's globally minded music. All the way back in the 14th century, Catalan musicians were drawing inspiration from across Europe to inform their folk tradition. Catalan nationalists turned to the Sardana as a hope for a purely Catalan tradition to unite the peoples under a solid national identity. But even this was ignoring the global context. The person credited with founding the modern Sardana, Pep Ventura, has been surrounded in nationalist debate. Ventura has essentially become a symbol of Catalan resistance against Castilian rule. However, according to Stanley Brands of the American Folklore Society, despite Catalan scholars so heavily emphasizing Ventura's Catalan-ness, he wasn't actually born in Catalonia, but Andalusia in southern Spain. To suggest that the founder of Catalonia's foremost modern folk tradition isn't Catalan was too much to bear for the Catalan nationalists. As Brands says, the Sardana, like the Catalan language, must be defended against possible incursions by the dominant Castilian culture. In situations of contact between Catalans and non-Catalans, the best assurance of cultural survival is for non-Catalans to adopt Catalan culture. Failing this process, the opposite might occur, and Catalonian culture might altogether disappear. Now this is finally striking at the heart of the globalization problem. Why the Catalan people so vehemently oppose globalization, but it doesn't explain the crucial bit. Why is the Sardana less popular now than it was before? Surely it defines the ideal that Catalan nationalists have striven for. After all, it represents essentially every part of Catalan culture, democracy, autonomy, community, and resilience, all most certainly central parts of Catalan identity.
So it's something that is quite something that you do, like you share with other people, and even if there's this person who is like saying things to finish, it's actually everyone at the same level.
However, this community-driven focus is not attractive enough for it to stay as pervasive as it has remained throughout the 20th century. And keep in mind, the 20th century also contained the dictatorship of Francisco Franco, and yet the Sardana continued to endure. So why is it fading now? An answer might be found in one of my professor's perspectives on Barcelona.
You know, I loved Spain and I loved Barcelona. I loved the trip, and I would not want to live in Barcelona because it's just a city. You know, I'd want to, you know, when we went out of Barcelona, when we went to Tarragona, and when we went to Montserrat, when we went up to the Costa Sol, all that, you know, was just wonderful and amazing. And so I could see myself in little towns, like retiring in one of those little towns. It just seems like, you know, I mean, it's wonderful and beautiful and everyone should visit. The Sagrada Familia is amazing, but it's a city.
Yeah.
And so it's just becoming like other cities in some ways.
The Sardana, for all that it is and all that it does not beat that globalizing factor in a global city without popular support. That energy for Airbnbs has just not been extended to defending the Sardana as vehemently as Brian says Catalan people have defended traditions like it in the past.
I think most of the traditions here are like thought, or I like with them you experience the feeling of, you know, being with other people. Yes, definitely. And this is something that afterwards, like now there's other traditions, for example, like concerts, which is like it's obvious that concerts, one of the things about concerts and going into places to listen to music is like you're gonna gather with other people. But for example, I was living in London, and one of the things that I found really different is how people experience music. For example, in London, you would go to a concert because you really want to enjoy and you will listen to the music and stuff. And here it's more like you would go to a concert and you'll be on the back just talking to people and just, you know, enjoying the moment, but not really listening to anything at all.
Yeah.
So it's like funny.
That's
It's something to do with, you know, social stuff.
So music in Catalonia in general really serves that social purpose.
Yes. And when you listen to the music as well, it have a component like all the time talking about so the theme, for example, and the music itself, I think it is it triggers like this social aspect of the community.
It is, as Catalan poet Josep Maria Lope Pico said, "Numbered dance, your measure is open guarantee of cordiality. You protect us all, but remain pure because you know the limits of liberty." In the end, the Sardana is simply only one part of Catalan musical tradition. In modern urban settings, younger people just find a better fit with imported concert culture mixed with the Sardana ideals of democracy and community. It was hearing about the concerts that made this all click. Of course, things just won't stay the same forever. The Catalan people are defending Catalan culture from non-Catalan culture by turning that non-Catalan culture into the community-driven, Sardana-inspired experience. And it would be no surprise that the Sardana is still thriving, just perhaps not in Barcelona.
You know, it was very much like if there was Barcelona, Tarragona or Girona that were like big cities, but then most of the people would live on the outside, like on the woods and in the fields, and they would just be farmers or be, you know, people that would work on the outside. And I think somehow the Sardana is also linked to that, like this humble, tradition of Catalan people. And yeah, it's also seen in other parts of our culture. So for those people, for those communities, that's like the place and the time of the week where they gather and they will just see each other. So it still have a social, social function to the community.
So it's like a routine almost there.
Mm-hmm.
They meet there every week and do the Sardana.
Definitely.
but this is less due to its exclusive purpose as a national vehicle as one may initially think after reading the words of Catalan ethnomusicologists who have so persistently attributed the Sardana to an almost necessary cultural marker of Catalonia. That is not to say that the Sardana is not important to Catalonia. It most certainly is, especially in those rural communities where it is still a routine. It serves that social purpose.
Well, I know that there are conscious efforts in different parts of the world for societies to hold on to those traditional kinds of dance and music. So my hope is, I guess I would say my hope is that maybe the people in Catalonia make really conscious efforts to try and pull young people in so that those traditions don't die.
So, I mean, the communities, Barcelona is becoming, multinational.
Yeah.
And so a lot of their cultural traditions might be watered down. We saw them because that's what we were there to see. But I'm positive, that in more rural areas, the traditions are even stronger.
From outside of the culture, too, maybe seeing the fading of the Sardana is more impactful than it is from within. As a matter of fact, Mr. Llopart attributed the decline to less of a global shift than a generational shift and a demographical shift in recent years.
I think even if you wouldn't be thinking of globalization, because people, young people have other tendencies, it's just something that's just a bit, it's like a tradition of the past somehow. Like for me as a young person that, has been involved with Sardana, sometimes when I was going at high school and saying, yeah, I do that, I would be tagged as a freak, or someone that's like, oh, did you do that? What the heck? This type of, and I am from one of those, small villages where it still exists very much. So yeah, probably. Also because in Catalonia, we had a lot of migration from, people coming from Andalusia, from other parts of Spain. And so it's very plural in terms of different cultures existing.
Yeah.
And for example, you have a lot of people celebrating, for example, traditions from Andalusia.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even more than the Sardana, in places like Barcelona or and stuff.
So what does the Sardana mean to Catalonia? And what has truly caused its decline in urban areas? My final determination has, I would say, be that it is a combination of everything that we've heard. Yes, it's globalization. Yes, it's migration from Andalusia. Yes, it's a generational shift. Yes, it's urban life. But for all the things that it is, there are things that it is not. No, it is not the degradation of Catalan culture. And no, it is not a decline in rural areas, where people still maintain a social purpose for the Sardana. The Sardana has been maintained as a national symbol of Catalonia for over a century, but this culture is not exclusively a trait of the Sardana. Music in Catalonia generally serves a social purpose. Part of the enduring nature of the Catalan people comes from their ability to maintain a heterogeneity in their music, whether that be a Catalan opera modern after Wagner, or the shift from the urban Sardana to the modern Catalonian concert. Ultimately, however, the Sardana remains in the hearts of all Catalan people, for it is uniquely Catalan. Not in the sense that it is completely isolated into Catalonia, because it isn't. The founder of the Sardana being born in Andalusia, and the instruments originating from southern France and the wider western classical tradition don't make it any less Catalan. Catalonia's music is that celebration of a unique sound, a unique language, a unique peoples that has been developed hand in hand with the world around it.